Have you ever watched a decision unfold? One that initially made you throw your hands up in exasperation, only for time to reveal it as a stroke of genius, a necessary evil that ultimately saved the day? Because that's precisely the roller coaster of emotions Chicago Bulls fans have ridden, from the initial head-scratching bewilderment surrounding the Zach LaVine trade to a growing, albeit grudging, appreciation for its long-term implications. This isn't just a story about a basketball transaction. It's a narrative about the courage to pivot, the painful necessity of letting go, and the unexpected ways in which a seemingly poor return can become the foundation for future hope. For years, the Chicago Bulls organization found itself caught in a purgatorial loop, too good to truly rebuild, yet never quite good enough to contend. A roster assembled with veteran talent, designed to compete, instead delivered a frustrating cocktail of mediocrity. The 2024 offseason saw the departure of key figures like Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan, signaling, to many, the long-overdue commencement of a full-scale rebuild. Yet as the dust settled, two prominent veterans remained, Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine. Their presence, while offering undeniable talent, felt like an anchor, tethering the franchise to a past that promised little but more of the same. The writing was on the wall, a clear message echoing throughout the organization. Change was not just desired, it was imperative. As the 2024-25 season dawned, the veteran duo of LaVine and Vucevic found themselves openly on the trade block. The market, however, remained stubbornly quiet. Rumors swirled, linking LaVine to contenders like the Denver Nuggets and Vucevic to the Golden State Warriors, but the calendar pages turned without a single deal materializing. The frustration among the fan base was palpable. Here was a team clearly in need of a new direction, with assets seemingly available, yet stuck in a holding pattern. The hope for a swift, decisive pivot began to wane, replaced by the familiar dread of another season spent treading water. The Bulls were stuck in a quagmire of their own making, a roster that lacked both the elite talent to compete for a championship and the youthful promise to inspire genuine optimism for the future. The run-it-back mentality had run its course, leaving behind a stale product and a disillusioned fan base. The need for a true, unadulterated rebuild was no longer a suggestion. It was a desperate plea from the heart of the franchise. But how do you initiate such a monumental shift when the market for your most valuable, yet most expensive assets is lukewarm at best? The answer, as it often is in the unpredictable world of professional sports, came from an entirely unexpected source. Just when the trade market seemed destined to remain stagnant, a seismic event shook the Western Conference, creating the ripple effect the Bulls desperately needed. Amidst a tumultuous campaign that saw head coach Mike Brown unceremoniously dismissed midseason, Sacramento Kings guard Aaron Fox, a cornerstone of their franchise, made a stunning request. He wanted out, with a clear intention of landing in San Antonio. This was the spark that ignited the long-awaited fire. The Kings, facing a disgruntled star and a season spiraling out of control, ultimately honored Fox's request, orchestrating a complex three-team trade. Fox was sent to the San Antonio Spurs, a fresh start for a dynamic guard. The Sacramento Kings, in turn, acquired Zach LaVine and the remaining $141 million on his hefty contract. A bold move for a team looking to reset its own trajectory. And the Chicago Bulls? They were the third party, the beneficiaries of this unexpected chain reaction, finally shedding LaVine's contract and charting a new course. But here's where the initial skepticism, the collective groan from Chicago, truly began. In return for a player who, at 29 years old, was still averaging an impressive 24.0 points for 0.8 rebounds for 0.5 assists and 3.2 three-pointers per game, shooting an efficient 51.1% from the field, and a blistering 44.6% from beyond the arc, the Bulls received what many considered a meager haul. From San Antonio, they acquired Trey Jones and Zach Collins. From Sacramento, Kevin Huerter, and perhaps most crucially, their own 2025 first-round pick, which had been sent to the Spurs as part of the DeMar DeRozan trade back in 2021. The catch? That pick was top 10 protected. This meant if the Bulls had chosen to fully tank in the latter half of the 2024-25 season, They could have retained it anyway. At the time, the consensus was clear: this was not a good trade. It felt like a concession, a white flag waved in desperation. To trade a player of LaVine's offensive prowess, even with his contract, for what was perceived as 3 outcasts and a non-essential draft pick, felt like a significant underpay. The immediate optics were terrible, leaving many to question the front office's ability to extract value. But as the season progressed and the dust began to settle, a different narrative began to emerge, one that would ultimately vindicate the Bulls' seemingly questionable decision. What initially appeared to be a poor return was, in fact, a crucial step in the Bulls' long-term strategy. The true value of the LaVine trade wasn't in the immediate talent acquired, but in the profound liberation it offered the franchise. First and foremost, the trade was about financial freedom. Paying a 30-year-old Zach LaVine nearly $100 million over the next 2 seasons would have been, as many analysts pointed out, organizational malpractice. It was a contract that severely limited the team's flexibility, making it nearly impossible to attract significant free agents or make meaningful roster upgrades. Shedding that albatross allowed the Bulls to breathe, to reset their cap sheet, and to begin planning for a future unburdened by past commitments. Even Nikola Vucevic's $21.4 million contract, while not as prohibitive, remains a tough pill to swallow, highlighting the importance of clearing LaVine's even larger deal. Secondly, and perhaps most excitingly for the future, LaVine's departure opened the door for younger guards to shine. With the ball-dominant LaVine out of the picture, Josh Giddey and Coby White were finally unleashed. Both players saw a significant increase in their point production, but more importantly, they expanded the scope of their games. Giddey, with more opportunities to initiate offense and showcase his playmaking, began to demonstrate the versatile guard skills that made him a high draft pick. Coby White, already a dynamic scorer, took on a larger leadership role, refining his decision-making and becoming a more complete offensive threat. With the increased usage and responsibility, both Giddey and White began to project as potential future All-Stars, a vision that would have been far more difficult to achieve with LaVine commanding such a large share of the offensive pie. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the LaVine trade signaled the unequivocal start of a rebuild. It was the clear, unambiguous message that the Bulls were finally committing to a new direction, even if it took longer than many would have liked. The team was no longer trying to patch over cracks. They were tearing down walls to build something new. And in a remarkable twist of fate, a best-case scenario unfolded. The Bulls not only recouped their 2025 first-round pick, which being top 10 protected, they might have kept anyway if they fully tanked, but they also went on an unexpected late-season heater, winning 16 of their last 25 games. This surge of competitiveness, without their former franchise player, provided a glimmer of hope, suggesting that the young core, once unburdened, could truly flourish. It was a testament to the idea that sometimes subtraction can truly lead to addition. Now, with Zach LaVine in Sacramento, the Chicago Bulls can finally focus entirely on the future. Nikola Vucevic stands as the only remaining veteran from the early 2020s roster, a solitary figure from a bygone era. Beyond him, the team's oldest player is 29-year-old Jevon Carter, whose continued presence is solely due to the player option he exercised. The roster is younger, more flexible, and crucially, less encumbered by massive contracts and conflicting player timelines. The path ahead is clear. Develop the young talent, maximize draft picks, and build a cohesive, competitive team from the ground up. The LaVine trade, initially viewed with such disdain, has transformed from a symbol of surrender into a beacon of hope. It was a move that required foresight, patience, and the willingness to endure short-term criticism for long-term gain. It wasn't about winning the trade in terms of immediate talent acquisition, it was about winning the future. And in that regard, the Bulls may have pulled off one of the most quietly impactful moves of the season. So, while the initial return for Zach LaVine might have felt like pennies on the dollar, the true currency exchanged was the Bulls' future. They bought themselves flexibility, opportunity, and the chance to finally build a team with a clear vision, It's a testament to the idea that sometimes the most painful goodbyes are the ones that lead to the most promising new beginnings. The Zach LaVine trade will not be remembered for what the Bulls got back immediately, but for what it allowed them to become. A team finally, truly looking forward. What's your take? Has your opinion on the Zach LaVine trade shifted now that we've seen its long-term impact? Do you believe the Bulls made the right call, or was it still too much of a gamble? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive analysis and passionate discussions about the ever-evolving world of sports.